Bible in a Year, the Message Version, April 2nd, Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 1 through chapter 22, verse 30. If a dead body is found on the ground that God your God has given you, lying out in the open, and no one knows who killed him, your leaders and judges are to go out and measure the distance from the body to the nearest cities. The leaders and judges of the city that is nearest the corpse will take a heifer that has never been used for work, never had a yoke on it. The leaders will take the heifer to the valley with a valley that has never been plowed or planted, and there break the neck of the heifer. The Levitical priest will then step up. God has chosen them to serve him in these matters by settling legal disputes and violent crimes and by pronouncing blessings in God's name. Finally, all the leaders of that town that is nearest the body will wash their hands over the heifer that has its neck broken at the stream and say, "We didn't kill this man, and we didn't see who did it. Purify your people, Israel, whom you redeemed, O God. Clear your people, Israel, from any guilt in this murder." That will clear them from any responsibility in the murder. By following these procedures, you will have absolved yourself of any part of the murder because you will have done what is right in God's sight. When you go to war against your enemies and God, your God, gives you victory and you take prisoners, and then you notice among the prisoners of war a good-looking woman whom you find attractive and would like to marry, this is what you do. Take her home, have her trim her hair, cut her nails, and discard the clothes she was wearing when captured. She is then to stay in your home a full month, mourning her father and mother. Then you may go to bed with her as husband and wife. If it turns out you don't like her, you must let her go and live wherever she wishes. But you can't sell her or use her as a slave since you've humiliated her. When a man has two wives, one loved and the other hated, and they both give him sons, but the firstborn is from the hated wife, at the time he divides the inheritance with his sons, he must not treat the son of the loved wife as the firstborn, cutting out the son of the hated wife, who is the actual firstborn. No, he must acknowledge the inheritance rights of the real firstborn, the son of the hated wife, by giving him a double share of the inheritance. That son is the first proof of his virility. The rights of the firstborn belong to him. When the man has a stubborn son, a real rebel, who won't do a thing his mother and father tell him, and even though they discipline him, he still won't obey, his father and mother shall forcibly bring him before the leaders at the city gate and say to the city fathers, "This son of ours is a stubborn rebel. He won't listen to a thing we say. He's a glutton and a drunk." Then all the men of the town are to throw rocks at him until he's dead. You will have purged the evil pollution from among you. All Israel will hear what had happened and be in awe. When a man has committed a capital crime, been given the death sentence, executed, and hung from a tree, don't leave his dead body hanging overnight from the tree. Give him a decent burial that same day so that you don't desecrate your God-given land. A hanged man is an insult to God. If you see your kinsman's ox or sheep wandering off loose, don't look the other way as if you didn't see it. Return it promptly. If your fellow Israelite is not close by or you don't know whose it is, take the animal home with you and take care of it until your fellow asks about it. Then return it to him. Do the same if it's his donkey or a piece of clothing or anything else your fellow Israelite loses. Don't look the other way as if you didn't see it. If you see your fellow's donkey or ox injured along the road, don't look the other way. Help him get it up and on its way. A woman must not wear a man's clothing, nor a man wear women's clothing. This kind of thing is an abomination to God your God. When you come across a bird's nest alongside the road, whether in a tree or on the ground, and the mother is sitting on the young or on the eggs, don't take the mother with the young. You may take the babies, but let the mother go, so that you will live a good and long life. When you build a new house, make a parapet around your roof to make it safe so that someone doesn't fall off and die and your family become responsible for their death. Don't plant two kinds of seed in your vineyard. If you do, you will forfeit what you've sown, the total production of the vineyard. Don't plow with an ox and a donkey yoked together. Don't wear clothes of mixed fabrics, wool and linen together. Make tassels on the four corners of your cloak you use to cover yourself. If a man marries a woman, sleeps with her, and then turns on her, calling her loose, giving her a bad name, saying, "I married this woman, but when I slept with her, I discovered she wasn't a virgin," then the father and mother of the girl are to take her with the proof of her virginity to the town leaders at the gate. The father is to tell the leaders, "I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he turned on her, rejecting her. And now he has slanderously accused her, claiming that she wasn't a virgin. But look at this. Here is a proof of my daughter's virginity." And then he is to spread out her blood-stained wedding garment before the leaders for their examination. The town leaders are to take the husband, whip him, fine him 100 pieces of silver, and give it to the father of the girl. The man gave a virgin girl of Israel a bad name. He has to keep her as his wife and can never divorce her. But if it turns out that the accusation is true and there is no evidence of the girl's virginity, the men of the town are to take her to the door of her father's house and stone her to death. She acted disgracefully in Israel. She lived like a whore while still in her parents' home. Purge the evil from among you. If a man is found sleeping with another man's wife, both must die. Purge that evil from Israel. If a man comes upon a virgin in town, a girl who is engaged to another man, and sleeps with her, take both of them to the town gate and stone them until they die. The girl, because she didn't yell out for help in the town, and the man, because he raped her, violating the fiancé of his neighbor. You must purge the evil from among you. But if it was out in the country that the man found the engaged girl and grabbed and raped her, only the man is to die, the man who raped her. Don't do anything to the girl. She did nothing wrong. This is similar to the case of a man who comes across his neighbor out in the country and murders him. When the engaged girl yelled out for help, there was no one around to help or hear her. When a man comes upon a virgin who has never been engaged and grabs and rapes her, and they are found out, the man who raped her has to give her father 50 pieces of silver. He has to marry her because he took advantage of her, and he can never divorce her. A man may not marry his father's ex-wife. That would violate his father's rights. Luke chapter 9, verse 51 through chapter 10, verse 12. When it came close to the time of his ascension, he, Jesus, gathered up his courage and steeled himself for the journey to Jerusalem. He sent messengers on ahead, and they came to the Samaritan village to make arrangements for his hospitality. But when the Samaritans learned that his destination was Jerusalem, they refused hospitality. When the disciples James and John learned of it, they said, "Master, do you want us to call a bolt of lightning down out of the sky and incinerate them?" Jesus turned on them. "Of course not." And they traveled on to another village. On the road, someone asked if he could go along. "I'll go with you wherever," he said. Jesus was curt. "Are you ready to rough it? We're not staying in the best inns, you know." Jesus said to another, "Follow me," he said. "Certainly, But first, excuse me for a couple of days, please. I have to make arrangements for my father's funeral." Jesus refused. First things first. Your business is life, not death. And life is urgent. Announce God's kingdom. Then another said, "I'm ready to follow you, Master, but first, excuse me while I get things straightened out at home." Jesus said, "No procrastination, no backward looks. You can't put God's kingdom off until tomorrow. Seize the day." Later, the Master selected 70 and sent them ahead of him in pairs to every town and place where he intended to go. He gave them this charge: "What a huge harvest, and how few the harvest hands. So, on your knees, ask the God of the harvest to send harvest hands. On your way, be careful. This is hazardous work. You're like lambs in a wolf pack. Travel light, comb, and toothbrush, and no extra luggage. Don't loiter and make small talk with everyone you meet along the way. When you enter a home, greet the family. Peace. If your greeting is received, then it's a good place to stay. But if it's not received, take it back and get out. Don't impose yourself. Stay at one home, taking your meals there, for a worker deserves 3 square meals. Don't move from home to home looking for the best cook in town. When you enter a town and are received, eat what they set before you. Heal anyone who is sick and tell them God's kingdom is right on your doorstep. When you enter a town and are not received, go out into the street and say, "The only thing we got from you is dirt on our feet, and we're giving it back." Did you have any idea that God's kingdom was right at your doorstep? Sodom will have better on Judgment Day than the town that rejects you. Psalm chapter 74, verse 1 through verse 23. An Asaph Psalm. You walked off and left us and never looked back. God, how could you do that? We're your very own sheep. How could you stomp off in anger? Refresh your memory of us. You brought us a long time ago. Your most precious tribe. You paid a good price for us. Your very own Mount Zion. You actually lived here once. Come and visit the site of disaster. See how they've wrecked the sanctuary. While your people were at worship, your enemies barged in, brawling and scrawling graffiti. They set fire to the porch, axes swinging. They chopped up the woodwork, beat down the doors with sledgehammers, and then split them into kindling. They burned your holy place to the ground, violated the place of worship. They said to themselves, "We'll wipe them all out," and burn down all the places of worship. There's not a sign or symbol of God in sight, no one to speak his name, no one who knows what's going on. How long, God, will barbarians blaspheme, enemies curse, and get by with it? Why don't you do something? How long are you going to sit there with your hands folded in your lap? God is my king from the very start. He works salvation in the womb of the earth. With one blow, you split the sea in two. You made mincemeat of the dragon, Tanan. You lopped off the heads of Leviathan, then served them up in a stew for the animals. With your finger, you opened up springs and creeks and dried up the wild floodwaters. You own the day, you own the night. You put stars and sun in place. You laid out the four corners of earth, shaped the seasons of summer and winter. Mark and remember, God, all the enemy taunts, each idiot desecration. Don't throw your lambs to the wolves. After all we've been through, don't forget us. Remember your promises. The city is in darkness, the countryside violent. Don't leave the victims to rot in the streets. Make them a choir that sings your praises. On your feet, O God, stand up for yourself. Do you hear what they're saying about you? All the vile obscenities? Don't tune out their malicious filth, the brawling invective that never lets up. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 11. The one who stays on the job has food on the table. The witless chase whims and fancies. This was a daily reading of the Message version of the Bible, read to you by BibleNaYear.